Oil painting is not complicated, but it's very easy to be confused when you start. Most beginners don't struggle because they lack talent, they struggle because they build bad habits early on, and those habits quietly sabotage everything. So instead of adding more information to the confusion, let's simplify things. Here are a few do's and don'ts that will immediately clean up your process and make oil painting so much easier for you. So the first one is do organize your palette and don't mix randomly. A messy palette leads to messy thinking. If your colors are scattered and constantly contaminated, you lose control before you even start painting. So you want to organize your palette, separate your light, your midtones, your darks, keep your mixtures clean and readable. When everything has a place, decisions become clear. The philosophy here is that your palette isn't just a tray to keep your paint. So the do here is you want to arrange your pigments in a consistent order, usually around the perimeter of the palette, from light to dark or by color temperature, cool and warms on both sides. This will build muscle memory, and eventually you won't even have to look to find your ultramarine blue, and you'll have a sort of an intuitive way to reach out for colors on your palette. Your hand will just know where everything lives. The don't is you don't want chaotic mess on your palette. So when you grab a bit of red, it's actually contaminated by some white and some blue and a little bit of this yellow that has nothing to do here. You want to try to avoid that. And pro tip, you want to keep the center of your palette clear and clean it regularly. This is your mixing pool. You want to treat it like a clean kitchen counter. You want to wipe it down frequently to keep your secondary, tertiary mixes from turning into something dull and unintentionally brown and muddy. You can also pre-mix some of the most useful colors needed to paint your subject, and this way you save a lot of time. Mixing randomly and intuitively feels creative at first, but most of the time it leads to incorrect colors and just mud. Before we move on, a quick segment to tell you about my oil painting course. You'll find the link in the description below. This course is designed to help you master the art of oil painting with step-by-step instructions, valuable tips, and detailed demonstrations. Whether you're a beginner or looking to refine your technique, this course is a must-try. Number 2, do work from big to small and don't jump into details too early. You want to start with the big shapes, the big values, the big relationships. That's where the painting is built. If you jump into details too early, like eyelashes, wrinkles, tiny highlights, you're building on nothing. The structure isn't there yet, so the details, they won't hold. Beginners often suffer from what could be called eyelash syndrome, painting the perfect eyelashes individually before the eye is properly placed within the space of the skull. So the do here is you want to squint. You want to squint so that you are forcing your brain to not consider the tiny details that might seem meaningful to you conceptually, but are not meaningful visually. If the big read of the painting doesn't work from 10 feet away, no amount of tiny details will save it. The don't here is you don't want to use your liner brush, your detail brush. You want to put them aside for the entire first half of the painting, because you shouldn't be using something this small in the beginning. Use the biggest brush you can find that would just fit the area, and always go for the biggest brush by default. Get the foundations right. The details are the reward, and they only come in the end during the modeling phase, not at the starting point. Number 3, you do want to control your values and you don't want to obsess about hue. If your values are off, no amount of beautiful hue will save the painting. Some painters can use some extremely limited palettes and make wonderful paintings. Why? Simply because the values are clearly established. Always ask yourself, is this lighter or darker than what's next to it? Keep your value structure simple and clear. A good painting should work in black and white first, and then hue and chroma come on top of that. The philosophy here is that value does all the heavy lifting in art, and color is just the flavor on top. There's a saying that goes, value does the work, but color gets the credit. So the do is you want to practice with a limited palette, like the Zorn palette or a Grisaille palette at first. And if you can make a painting that looks great with a very limited palette, like only black, white, red, yellow, ochre, you've mastered the art of value. The don't is you don't want to go buy hundreds of paint tubes to get all sorts of hues that you think are magic bullets. A correct hue in the wrong value will still look like a mistake in the middle of your canvas. Pro tip, if you're not sure about a painting that you applied on your canvas, you can take a photo with your phone and just turn the saturation to 0 so that you see if the image suddenly stops making sense, it means that your values have a problem. So don't worry about getting all those fancy paint tubes to get exactly the right kind of hue. Maybe you don't need them. Hue and chroma make color seductive, but value is what makes it believable. Number 4, do load your brush properly and don't starve the stroke. Many beginners think that they don't mix enough paint. In reality, they don't load the brush properly. A good stroke comes from a well-prepared brush, enough paint evenly distributed in the bristles, ready to deposit. If the brush is underloaded, the stroke will break, you'll start scrubbing, and everything becomes kind of weak, chaotic. So the philosophy here is that most beginners treat paint like it's a precious, expensive resource, but scrubbing the canvas with a brush that's almost empty results in something scratchy and very weak, and the colors turn out to be way more disappointing than you ever thought. So the do is you do want to charge your brush with the proper amount of paint. You want the paint to sit on the bristles, not just be soaked into them. A properly loaded brush should feel heavy. When you lay it down, it should deposit the paint onto the surface like butter on toast. The don't is you don't want to pet the canvas. You want to avoid the back and forth scrubbing that creates this thin plastic looking layer that also makes it very weak and feeble. The pro tip is that your brushwork starts on your palette. It means that you might need to spend more time loading the brush than you think you need to. It's really important. One confident, juicy stroke is worth 50 hesitant ones. Prepare the stroke on the palette and understand that your brushwork starts on your palette before the brush touches the canvas. How much paint you pick up is as important as how much you want to lay down. The canvas will only reveal what you brought to it. Number 5, do paint with intention and don't overwork. Every time you touch the canvas, something should happen. Either you add paint or you remove it sometimes, but you should know which one you are doing. Sargent was famous for not touching the canvas for what seemed like hours, and then all of a sudden, with a few strokes, the painting was done. Felt like magic, right? Overworking happens when you keep touching the same area without intention. You blend, you correct, you adjust until everything loses structure and energy. The philosophy here is that overworking isn't about spending too much time on the painting. It's about making too many moves without a goal. Every stroke should be an answer to a specific question. What shape is this? What value is this? What edge does this have? So the do here is you do want to adopt the Sargent method. Spend 90% of your time observing and 10% actually touching the canvas. If you find yourself mindlessly petting the paint, petting the canvas, or blending something that doesn't even need to be smooth, just put the brush down, think, and the don't is you want to avoid noodling, that aimless back and forth motion where you hope that the painting will eventually fix itself. It won't. It will just get tired. You will get tired. Everything will lose its soul, and eventually you'll just give up. So pro tip, if you aren't 100% sure what a stroke will accomplish, just don't make it. Walk away, just take a break, grab a coffee, look at the canvas from across the room until the answer becomes obvious. Sometimes the best move is to stop, step back, think, project yourself, and find the answer to what your brush is actually asking. Number 6, you do want to respect the fat over lean principle and you don't want to ignore layering. Oil painting is often built in layers. In fact, this is what I recommend for most beginners. Early layers should be thinner and leaner, and later layers should be richer and thicker. If you ignore this, you risk technical problems, cracking, poor adhesion. The painting will become too heavy too early and you will lose flexibility. The philosophy here is the golden rule of the oil painting chemistry. It's about drying time. Lean paint dries fast, and fat paint, which has more oil, dries slow. So the do is you want to start your first layer thin by doing a wash, so thin and lean, so no oil at first. And as you progress, you can add more oil or use thicker paint at the same time. So the fat over lean and the thick over thin, these two rules, they go together, but they pretty much are the same. So this ensures that the top layers will not dry faster than the bottom ones, which is one of the primary causes of cracking. Think of each layer as a step forward, not a final statement. Number 7, do step back often and don't paint with your nose on the canvas. Up close, everything always looks kind of convincing, but from a distance, the truth usually appears. This is why I always like to work while standing up, because it makes it much easier to step back and observe your work. Step back regularly, look at your painting from afar. You'll immediately see proportion issues, value mistake, weak areas. The philosophy here is you don't experience a painting from 6 inches away, and neither does your viewer. So when you are in your working position really up close, you're not really observing the painting the way it's meant to be observed. When you stay too close, your brain will fill the gaps and lie about lots of things, like lie about proportions, lie about values, because your brain is just going to get used to seeing the painting from such a distance and try to make it out internally. But actually, that's not how the painting is meant to be seen. So the do here is you do want to work by standing up, because most of your viewers will be standing up when they observe your painting. And they will probably observe your painting from a distance, at least at first. They might get a little bit closer to see some details, but most of the time they will be a couple feet away. What I recommend is to step back 2 to 3 steps so that you really see your painting from the optimal viewing spot. And the don't here is you don't want to get tunnel vision. If you spend 2 hours perfectly rendering an ear while sitting down, you might stand up only to realize that the ear is actually too low on the head. It's not positioned properly, and you've spent all this time with your nose stuck on the canvas for something that was off to start with. Pro tip here is you want to use a mirror. Mirror really help. You should have one in the back of your studio. You should have one in your pocket, and looking at your painting in a mirror or upside down refreshes your eye, making glaring errors in anatomy or composition jump out immediately. You know how your brain somehow can start to fall in love with your own mistakes if you're just too close to them? Well, the mirror just reveals all the ugliness in your work, and it's actually a fresh look that's actually needed. But stepping back is always a necessity. That's it, my friend. Hope you liked this week's video with clear ideas that are simple to keep in a corner of your head. Don't take them as ultimate rules, but as ways to tackle your painting projects without confusion. As always, joy and inspiration to you. Check out this video next.